Hey everyone, Kale with Antique Book Collective, and today I'm getting to you guys with a sequel to another video that I did earlier. That other video, I'm going to link it there. It's how to list books on eBay the easy way. However, I just know for a fact that you can't always do it the easy way, because the easy way is using someone else's listings to get all the facts that you need for your book. You know, it's going to have everything filled out, or most of the stuff that you need filled out. Sometimes, though, you can't do that because there are not other listings for your book. For example, this book right here, it does not have any other listings for it. That is something I can copy. So with all that said, I'm just going to show you guys how to make a listing the hard way, where you have to actually go in and input all that stuff on your own. So with all that said and done, I'm going to hop onto a screen share. Alright guys, so here we are with the screen share. As you can see, I typed in the title of this book. Sorry, I can't talk all of a sudden. Champoeg and Other Poems. I'm sure I'm pronouncing that one wrong, but when you have that many weird letters put together, it's not my fault. So as you guys can see here though, I have two results. Both these results are not really for my book, and since they are actually through the UK, that actually means I can't really copy it. If you guys have been doing this for a little while, you will know for a fact that if you do have ones from other stores, like other sites, other than eBay US, you will have to basically go and make it yourself, because if you try to copy this listing, you know, the whole sell like one, it'll actually try to take you to the UK store or wherever else you're trying to sell it. That's something that's annoying. It's something I hope that eBay fixes in the long run, but for now, it's something that basically means that you don't have another listing like it. And on top of that, these two books that you guys can see here, they're not really the book that I have. The book that I have is a little bit older than brand new. So as you guys know, I do antique books here. So this book right here has a copyright date of 1903, but that's not important because what we have as the actual print date is 1904. So 1904 is the year that this was printed. Obviously, that's not brand new. In addition to that, these two books are clearly not this pretty red book. So that is, of course, not something that'll really be the end of the world. If you guys do have a book that doesn't match the photo on another thing, you could still copy that thing and get most of the information you need. You need to edit a couple things, but for me, I can't do that. So for me, since I don't have this, I'm going to have to hit sell, which is at the top of the thing, and then I'm going to, of course, have all my listings, and what you want to do is hit create listing, which is right here. So before I even hit that, I'm just going to tell you guys right now that I really like the new eBay listing tool that they've put up. I hated it at first, and it took a little while for me to get used to, like, I don't know, 12 listings or so before I was like, okay, I can do this quick again, because like every time they change it, it like totally gets into the whole flow of how you guys do this. But for me, I've gotten used to it, and I actually sort of prefer this over what they've had before. So hit create listing. You could say what kind of one that you want to do. I have no idea what the listings from BLQ inventory is. No idea whatsoever what that is, but sometimes eBay does different things like that. You can do multiple listings, as I said, but for me, I'm doing a single listing because I have one of these antique books. So to start out my listing, you could just type out all this different stuff that you have. As you guys can see, you can also see your different drafts that you have here. For me, this is a draft that I copied because I was testing out a couple things with the new listing software. But what you want to do when you guys are typing in your own listing for antique books specifically, you want to do the title, you want to do the author, and you want to do the year. These are the absolute minimum things that you want to do, from my experience at least. If you guys aren't doing antique books, the year might not be as important. Something else that you will want to include most likely would be potentially the publisher, if it's a first edition, if it's illustrated, if it's a hardcover, if it's ex-library, all these sorts of things, stuff that you basically want to do. Honestly, you can put in whatever you want, but that's just up to you guys depending on what you want to do. So I'm just typing on in Champoeg, I'm sure I'm still saying that wrong, and Other Poems. So something that you guys want to do when you're doing this is make sure that you're capitalizing the correct stuff that you will want in your actual title. So there's the title, and I'm just flipping through to get the correct author name. So it's E. Eberhard, and as you guys can see, I put in the period after the E's. That is not required on eBay. It's something that I'm just doing right now. It's something that I might change if I want to, but this is what I'm putting in right now, and I'm also putting in the year, so 1904. And you can also say like printed 1904 or 1904 edition, or like second printing, third printing, 100th printing, all these sorts of things. But you just hit search after that, and you'll put in your suggested thing. For me, I hit antiquarian and collectible, and I put that in because this book is an antique. Antique, basically the industry standard for it is it's 100 years old. Some people try to tell you that it's not 100 years old, and it's like, oh, it's only 10 years, it's only 30 years, it's only 50 years, something like that. Some people say 75. I'd be more inclined to agree with someone saying 75 than 25 years. But the industry standard is 100 years. The only reason why someone tries to tell you that it's not that is so they can sell you something that's not an antique, but tell you it is and charge you more for that. So if you want to be a little bit of a fart nugget, you can do that, but it's not the best. So with that said, find a match for this book, add other details, all that sort of stuff. You can do this, and since I've already done the search, though, I know that this book does not exist on eBay's platform right now, so I'm just going to continue without match. This is what you'll end up doing in the long run if you can't find a match anyways, so just skipping to that. So next thing that we have is we need the photos and videos. So I actually don't have the photos on this computer just yet, so bear with me as I get it. So the way that I do my photos is I take the photos on my phone, which is right here. I take them on my phone, and my phone then backs them up onto Google Photos. So once I get them on Google Photos, which it just automatically puts it up, but sometimes it doesn't, so you might have to do it every now and then. But once I get the photos up, as you guys can see here, I had a wildfire just outside of my house the other day, actually yesterday from when I'm filming this. So then I have this, which you guys will see in another video. So this box, just a spoiler, that's an antique set of books that was damaged because of water. That's no fun. Here's another book that I was listing, but here is the book that we are focusing on. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. So you want to hit the check mark, and then scroll down to the other one. As you press shift, hit that, so it'll select all of them. Then you want to hit download, and it'll just download it. It'll do a fun little download thing, it'll be a zipped folder, which is a little bit of an extra step that is a little bit annoying, but that's something that I don't really care about too much. It's not the end of the world. So just opening that up, hopping back onto eBay as we wait for this. Here's this, and once you do this, you have to extract the folder, otherwise you can't access the photos because it's zipped again. So extracting, just taking a little bit of time for that. It takes a little bit longer because I'm filming a video as we go. So now it should be unzipped. Let me just check. Still not unzipped. Oh, extract all. Sorry, I clicked the wrong thing. So I'm doing it to the downloads just because. So extract. And there's that. And now I have the folder with this. So now that I have that, I can add the photos. Just got to click it. And once I got that, I'm just going to scroll up and get to downloads. So I'm actually blurring out my little section right here just because privacy matters. And you guys don't need to know everything I'm doing in my life. So now we have our little folder that has the books in it. I'm just going to click the first one, hit shift, click over to the other one, hit open. That'll get all the photos in. When I take my photos, I make sure that I have my first photo be the photo that I want the front cover, my title image or main photo to be. I make sure that that's the one that I take so I don't have to reorder everything. And then I make sure that I take the photos in the order that I want them to be in. So as you guys can see, I do the front, the spine, the back, and then I get corner shots. I like to get the corner shots so people can see the wear of the book. So I don't always do the bottom ones. Sometimes I do. It basically depends on if there's something worth seeing on it. For me, the bottom corner looks basically the same as the top corner, and then the bottom spine looks basically like the top. So I didn't take photos of this one because it wasn't too important, but as you guys can see, I make sure that I have all the information I need. So with that said, going down to this, so as you guys can see, I took up 54 of the 80 characters that I can take. Personally, I recommend that you guys put in all the characters that you can into your title. That way there's more stuff for people to find when they are looking for your thing. So Champoeg and other poems, E.E. Eberhard hardcover. So I'm actually going to get rid of the periods because the periods don't really matter for the actual search algorithm. So, whoops, hit the wrong button. So I'm getting rid of that right now, which actually just freed up 2 spots. And what I'm going to put in lieu of that is I'm just going to flip through the book right now to see if there's any illustrations. I do not see any illustrations, so I'm going over to the other information that I might want to include, which is the publisher. So the publisher is Authors, and actually I don't need to capitalize that. Authors and Writers Union. Nice and simple. That gets me up to 80 characters even, so I'm actually going to leave it there because I have all the information I really need. I have the title, I have the author, I have that it's a hardcover, I have the published, print year, sorry, and I also have the publisher. Sorry, did I say publisher over here? Sorry, the author. So I have all that main information. I don't know how much traffic the publisher is going to drive, because I don't know how many people are going to look up this particular publisher, but when you have a more common publisher like Doubleday or Penguin or something like that, it will drive some traffic because there are people that look for specific publishers. So with that said, looking at item category, nice and simple. You can also do your store category if you have a store. For me, I don't have any categories on my store yet. I still need to organize that if I want to, but I don't. So on to this next section, it's the item specifics. This is something that will take a bit of your time. This is one of the reasons why I try to always copy someone else's listing, because they will have all this information filled out already. So as you guys can see, first thing first is topic. So poetry is a topic. It helps if you spell it right. So poetry and plays, or just poetry. This one's just poetry, so I'm hitting poetry and it didn't work for me. Clicked the wrong thing somehow. Poetry, there we go. Publisher, so you don't really have to put in the publisher all the time. I'm just putting it in because I can. So authors and writers union, and when you have one that doesn't get searched too often, you'll have to add it yourself. When you have a more common one, you won't have to. Same with authors. If you have a more common author, like let's just do Clive Cussler, you can type in just Clive and it'll pop up. Stuff like that will be pretty easy. When you have a less popular author like this book's E.E. Eberhard, it probably will not pop up. As you guys can see, it did not. So Eberhard, nice and simple. Checking spelling just to be sure. You guys don't want to have misspellings. It's not the end of the world if it does, but that sort of stuff. Binding is next. So sometimes it does draw information from the item title that you put in, which is pretty nice. In this case it did, but if you guys did not have it say that it was a hardcover or not, it'll let you say what it is. So for me, I could actually have said cloth, which is an option. I don't see the option right now. There it is. Cloth is an option, and this book, it is a cloth one. I'm just going to hold it up so you guys can see the texture. That is a cloth hardcover, so you could say cloth, but I like to say hardcover if it's a hardcover, because people don't normally look up cloth hardcover. They might look up leather hardcover, but generally no one's looking up cloth because they don't really think of cloth as a hardcover. So with that said, special attributes, I'm just going to open this up so you guys can see. So Dust Jacket Illustrated First Edition, these are the most frequent ones that they normally see, but there are lots of other things. So inscribed means it either is signed by the author with a fun little note, or it has information from a previous owner, that sort of stuff. So this one is inscribed, but I don't personally put in inscribed very often. The inscription on this book is just a previous owner's name. I'll mention that in the description, but not really here. And something that I do is I always make sure that I have photos of these things. So as you guys can see in this photo, I do have it. So I'm just going to keep on going. All this other information, lots of fun. All these things are basically things that could get you more money in the long run. But when it's a rare book like this that no one else even has listed, you'll get the sale basically. Because if someone's looking for this, they'll see you're the only one with it. So on to subject. So subject is something that I generally leave blank because it doesn't actually have what I want all the time. So literature and fiction, all these sorts of things. Honestly, I'm going to put in this as literature because poetry is not an option here. So all results, as you can see, you can just scroll through here. None of them are poetry, but there are some pretty nice ones that could definitely make you money if you do it. But literature and fiction, it's a very broad one, but it'll work for this. Language, people do sometimes search by language. Oftentimes I don't see that as a thing, but this book is in English, believe it or not. So character family, this is something I actually do leave blank like 99.999% of the time because I don't care about character family. I'm not going to spend an hour trying to figure out what the character family is, so that's something for me. Original or facsimile, I've heard it pronounced like once, so I don't actually know how to pronounce it. Sorry guys, be sure to comment below if you know the actual pronouncing of this word, but yeah, you can do the options here, all these different things, but basically it's asking if it's from what I've gathered, if it's the actual original book or if it's a reprinting of the book to look like one of the original ones. So there is like book club editions of stuff, and those are facsimiles, of those particular books. So next up is region. This is something else that I leave blank most of the time, but if you guys want to, you can definitely do it by region. This one, I'm just opening it up to the title page. I believe it said, yeah, Chicago's where this one was published, so I could say North America. I'm gonna say North America because I can, but it's not the end of the world. On to the next section, which is condition. So condition, this is just where you put a short little thing on what the condition is. Most people actually leave this blank, but eBay, from what I'm gathering, must be wanting to push this now because they now seem to be prompting you to fill out the condition a little bit more than what they have in the past. So if you guys are selling stuff that are not antique books, you're actually going to have to put in if it's good, very good, acceptable, like new, all that sort of stuff in the condition. It'll like have a little place for you to click. But for me, with antique books don't actually have conditions. So what you should do is basically say that sort of word, be like, is it very good? Is it something like that? That's what I try to do in my condition. Generally, again, no one really does this, but it's a nice way to just summarize the overall condition of the book, and then you can say check out the description to see what the book is like specifically, or see the photos, that sort of stuff. So for me, I'm just going to say is book is in very good condition. And as I am saying this, I always try to have the book in hand because it lets me like turn it over, look at things, be like, okay, is this, okay, yes. I like to make it sure everything is good. So I do have other videos I will, you guys can check out in the description below. You can subscribe, all that sort of stuff. I have all the different things on how I rank books, that sort of stuff, but that's for another video, obviously, because I am not getting into that too much in this video. I will tell you guys, however, that I am saying that this book is very good because it has nice sharp corners, the coloring is very good. A lot of the times books' spines, they will be like sun bleached, so they'll be like either a paler color or they'll be like yellowed. This one, it doesn't even look sun bleached. This book definitely looks very good at the very minimum. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if someone could say like new, but because of the corners, how the corners have lost some ink, and because there is some fraying on the corner here, all that sort of stuff, since it looks like it is an older book, I can only say very good. But again, it's an antique book, so that doesn't fully register in this because it's an old book and conditions just aren't really the same when it's that old. So I'm still going to say book is in very good condition. I'm going to say cover is in great shape. All pages are clear and present. And basically that's saying that there aren't any loose pages and no one scribbled all over the book. So with all that said, I'm then going to say see photos and description for details. And you basically just want to be as honest as you can on this. Keep it short, keep it snappy. Generally, eBay, when they're showing the buyers the description, it only shows a few words anyways, so you want to keep it snappy just because of that. So with all that said, on to description. So description, you want to put in a description here. It doesn't say a detailed description, but I like to do at least sort of detailed. I like to segregate it out into a couple different paragraphs. My first paragraph, of course, is the overall one. Basically, I'm rewording the condition description, so I don't normally try to stick to the very good, good, all that sort of stuff. I like to be a little more artsy with my sort of stuff, so I'm going to say book is in great overall condition. It looks like it's hardly been, I wish I could spell, read. So that's sort of what I do for most of my book descriptions. I like to have it be a nice sort of artsy sort of thing. I'm not telling you if it's good, very good, that sort of stuff, but if it is in tatters, I'll be like, it's clearly been read, it's clearly been loved, that sort of stuff. It'll make someone have a little bit more of an emotional attachment as opposed to saying it's good condition. It's like, it's been loved, it's been read, it's the kid who had it clearly loved it, and it has like drawings from them, that sort of stuff. I like to keep it short like that. So with that said, on to the next one. For me personally, I like to do the cover description next. I do the cover description after that because the cover is the first thing you see when you are buying the book and when you're grabbing the book. So I like to go to cover after that. So cover is in amazing shape. It shows only minor shelfware. And shelfware is something that you will see on your books, and it's going to be basically what kind of wear that the book will get from getting put on and taken off a shelf 1,000 times or 1,000,000 times. So it'll generally be dinged up on the bottom corner, on the, both bottom corners, on the top corners as well, and also along the bottom edge, it'll generally have a little bit of wear because it got dragged on the shelf. For this one, it's very minimal wear, especially considering that this book is over 100 years old. So shows only minor shelf wear. There is some discoloration on the, I'm gonna say on the edges. And with all that said, I honestly don't think I need to write too much more, but if I had a book that had stickers on it from a library or a store, I would mention that. If I had stains on it, I'd mention that. If it had a whole bunch of water damage and the cover was warped, I would mention that. If someone dropped like an anvil on it at some point and had a big old dent, yeah, I would mention that. I've actually had some books where someone dropped something like really heavy and sharp and it actually penetrated through, I would say, about half the book. It was like really impressive and sort of sad, but that's something that I have seen. So that would be stuff that I mentioned for the cover. It's stuff that you could see from the outside. After that, I mentioned the pages, because the pages obviously are the next things that you look at. So this book, as you guys could see here, the pages, they are all beautiful, they're all crisp. There is very little yellowing on the pages themselves, like very little, and there is no writing on the pages themselves. The only writing that we see, as I mentioned earlier, is the previous owner's name. I also, whenever I check for writing, I like to check the front, but I also check the back. For some reason, people do write stuff on the back cover sometimes, like back inside cover or the last page. People do write there sometimes as well, but besides that, besides looking specifically at those, I generally flip through, not too quick, but I flip through all the different ones, and if you guys do this long enough, you'll be able to like notice if anything does not look like text. So if something doesn't look like text, I normally stop, look closer at it, and see if it's an underlining or just bolding, something like that, see if it's someone else's writing. So with all that said, I'm just going to describe the pages. So pages are very clean, binding is tight. Binding is rather tight, actually. I can't say it's tight. Actually, no, I could say it's tight. So binding being tight or loose basically is if you open the page, like, does the next page really want to open? Like, when you guys have a brand new book, you will open it and it like creaks, you know, it's like because that is you stretching out the binding at the very beginning. A lot of people, when they buy new books, they actually recommend that you, like, when you get a brand new one, is you open it all the way and you basically just abuse it so the binding gets loosened up early on. But if I don't personally do that, though, I hate that. But if you do have an old book, like, a good test for me to say if it's tight or not is, like, I try to hold the pages at a 90-degree angle, and if all the pages just flop over, the binding isn't too terribly tight. But this one, you guys will, like, sort of learn it as it goes on, as you've done this longer. But if a book feels like it's a newer book, like from the pages, how much effort you put into turning them, you will be like, okay, it is tighter binding. Whereas if you have an antique book that's been read a million times, you'll be flopping through those pages and it's very different. Like, let's just say a leather-bound Bible. Leather-bound Bibles, those they are not supposed to have tight binding. The entire point of Bibles a lot of time is to have them open 180 degrees and being able to flop between the pages. They are made to not have tight binding, whereas a hardcover like this is supposed to have tighter binding usually, unless it's been read a few times. So this one, as I was saying, is tight binding. So binding is tight. All pages are accounted for, and none are loose. So I like to say none are loose because you could say that all pages are accounted for and still have pages floating around. When you say no pages are loose, that shows the person that none of the pages have popped loose. Something else that I do like to mention is sometimes with older books, you'll have the pages right here, like on the front or the back, or even in the middle of the book, you'll have them splitting away from the binding, so you'll see like a little mesh cloth that looks sort of like cheesecloth. You'll see that sort of stuff, and that is when the book is tearing away from the binding. That's something that you want to mention, but for me, I don't have that. So pages are very clean, binding is tight, comma, all pages are accounted for and none are loose. Something else that I mentioned is all pages are clear of any markings, because that is true, but then I say, however, there is a previous owner's name is pinned in on the inside. Is that inside? Oh, actually, first page. On the first page as pictured. And yes, I know I did a typo. I'm just going to hop over and fix that really quick. And I'm going to just skim over it really quick. So I know that I do a lot of typos as I'm doing this. If you guys do a video as you guys are trying to work and write and talk, you do make a lot of typos. So no judgment. If you guys do judge me, I'm going to block you. Maybe not. Sort of a joke, but that's all the information that you guys really need to do. If this book had water damage on the pages, I'd mention the water damage. If it had tears on the pages, I would mention that, all that sort of stuff. For me, again, I like to partition out the different things about a book so people can just quickly look at the information that they want. And I also like to say, like, the first word for this paragraph is cover. First one for this one is pages. That way people know what I'm talking about in that paragraph. So with all that said, those are the three things that I always make sure to do. And then something else that I always make sure to do, but you guys don't need to do, is say, feel free to contact the seller with any questions. That's just a nice added thing that adds a little human aspect to it. It'll make someone think that you actually give a rip about the book that you're selling or whatever other item that you're selling. For me, I always make sure to put that in, and I do get questions from time to time. Honestly, I'm just thinking right now, I probably only get comments and questions on like maybe 1 to 5% of books, which is not very much, but it is enough because I do have a lot of sales through those people that reach out. They are like, hey, what about this and this about the book? And you can respond, or you can respond with an offer. These are things that are available to you with eBay, but that's just some stuff for you guys to think about. So with all that said, I'm clicking off of that. That's all the information I really want. So on to pricing. So this, being an antique book, being a poetry book, being a book from an author that I don't personally know, I don't know what kind of pricing to do on it. Since it's an antique book that's 100 years old, I immediately think, that I can charge $100 for it. Potentially. Generally, for antique books, I can charge a minimum of $20 with the ones that I grab. Of course, there are some that are only worth $5. For me, I've never found a antique book worth less than $5. Like $5 is the absolute low, and those are generally just for children's books. If it's a book for adults, I normally find $15 as the absolute floor. So $20 I could definitely do. $100 could be what it's worth. So I'm actually going to open up another tab really quick, and I'm going to just type in this book. So Champoeg and other poems. I'm just going to type this in really quick to see if I can find any comps, to see if there's someone else selling this sort of thing, all that sort of stuff. But if you guys remember, there was someone selling this book on eBay that had the other pricing for it. I don't see anything about pricing here. I'm going to go over to shopping just to see if anyone is doing that here. So it looks like we have a 1904 leather-bound version of this book, which looks a lot like it, and that's for $51. So that does cut down how much I would charge for this. Here's one for $47, which I think is the same one. Yeah, Walmart. That one's affiliate, though. That's interesting. Going down, I don't see anything too exciting, but I definitely think I could do $20 to $25 for this all day based on this. So I'm exiting out of this really quick. Actually, no, before I do, I'm going to type in the author's name. So E.E. Everhard. I'm just going to see if there is any other information on this guy. So I don't see anything. That's a no there. I'm going to hop on over to all. Nothing. Nothing about him. Alright, yeah, so nothing about this guy, so he's not a famous author, but if he were a famous author, I would personally be able to charge more for this, especially with it being an early edition, because remember, it was copyright year is 1903, but then this one was printed 1904, so it's an earlier edition. So with all that said, I'm going to price this one at $25, because I feel like that's a pretty easy thing to do. I've said in other videos I don't like to sell books for under 15. I have a lot of reasons for that. You can check out that video. I recommend checking out that video, honestly, especially if you guys are new. That's just for books. If you don't sell books, you can obviously do other things, but I have that. You can put in the quantity. For me, I have one of these books, so I'm putting in a quantity of one. Onto this, though, we have offers. I allow offers on my things. You can also have your pricing be an auction. I only do buy it now, though, because for me, with antique books, some of these antique books, no one is looking for these, but when someone looks for it, it's going to be like a year down the road potentially, or 6 months down the road, so an auction will not work. Whereas if you guys are selling something newer, like let's say the first edition of Harry Potter, people are looking for that because everyone knows about it, and like 1,000 people want it right now, so having an auction could work for that. So schedule start time, you can start it immediately or sometime down the road. For me, I always start them immediately because I am putting in the time for a listing, might as well try to make money on it. So on to shipping, you can do all the different things here. What you need to do, though, is you need to have a scale. For me, I have this scale. It's a good scale. I've definitely enjoyed it. I just turned it on. That's what that beep was. I let it zero out. I grabbed the book and I put it on. So this book weighs 11.9, not pounds, ounces. So 11.9 is almost a pound. So that is something that I would put in for the weight. But before I do that, something that I always do before I finish out is I'm like, okay, what box do I put this in? So for me, this is I call it my tiny box. This one definitely is too big for this because I have one size smaller than this. which I call it indie because it's for an individual book usually. And this one definitely looks like it's better fit. Obviously, there's going to be some wiggle room. I'll put wrapping stuff in it to make sure that it doesn't bounce around. I actually wrap my books. I recommend wrapping your books if you're selling antiques because it's a nice added addition. But this one definitely seems like it's good for that. So putting it back on the scale with that, it's 15.4 ounces, and once I put all the packaging in, I would honestly expect this to get over 2 pounds. Sorry, over a pound, so I'm going to put in 2 pounds because when you are getting charged for media mail, which is what I'll talk about in a little bit, when you getting charged for that, you are getting charged per pound, so you don't really have to say 1 pound, 1 ounce, because you'll get charged for 2 pounds. So I just put in at the next highest pound. I know it sounds like, oh, it's 1 pound, 1 ounce, I can just say a pound, but that's not how it works. You do have to pay for the next level up. So package dimensions, for me, this one is 10 by 8 by 2, I believe. So just typing that in. And it's not exactly that. It's actually a little bit shy of that, but I just rounded up because that's how they run these things most of the time. So I round them up. And oftentimes you will have things that tell you roughly how to do it, but for me, this one, like, the dimensions they put in are like always wrong. So the dimensions for this, like 1 pound, that's probably not too far off, but for me it's going to be a little bit more because my packaging. But for the dimensions, look at that, 7 inches by 4 inches by 4 inches. Okay, so that's under 7. That's a little over 4, and that's definitely over 4. Well, actually, it's under 4 for what width, but it's like, if I was putting it in that, I'd have to cut it up. But at the end of the day, package dimensions doesn't matter too much. You can adjust it as much as you want, but I like to make sure that it's always correct. So with all that said, on to domestic shipping. This is how you will most likely sell your book, unless if you're maybe in Australia and you're selling a whole bunch of like American books, you know, where people from America might want it, something like that. But domestic shipping, you can select the different options here. For me, I always do cost varies on buyer location because I don't know where they are, and it does vary when I'm paying, so it should vary when they pay. So domestic service, you can do different services. For me, I do media mail because I do books, and media mail, guys, you could save so much money doing media mail as opposed to other books. So I'm just going to hit other services right now, and US parcel select, let's do that one. So apply. As you guys can see, it is basically $7.50 to $11.25, which is a lot more than $4.16. So I'm actually not going to offer this one because obviously that's more. So you can, of course, offer these other things like FedEx or UPS, stuff like that, because there are some buyers that will request that, but I let them request it individually if they want that. So you can also exclude locations. I don't personally do that, but it is definitely an option. And then you can do a handling cost. For me, I landed on $2. I actually had someone ask about why I landed on $2, and my reasoning is because of a lot of different things. So I would pull up the comment and make sure that I said it all correctly, but I'm just gonna like summarize things right now. So for me, I put in a handling cost of $2 because first off, $1 covers basically my box, my packing, my sticker, all that sort of stuff that I put on my thing, because I wrap the book in butcher paper. I do tape on it to make sure that it doesn't fall off. I don't tape the book though. Do not tape the book itself. And I put a sticker on it that says happy reading. It's something that I like to do. It's something that looks really good. And all of that accounts for roughly $1. And then I have the other $1. The reason why it's $2 instead of $1. The other $1 is because sometimes I say it's 1 pound, because you guys remember I said it was just shy of 1 pound. I could have put in 1 pound, and then once I put in the packaging, it could have ended up having to round up to 2 pounds. And 2 pounds for media mail is generally $1 more than what it'd be for 1 pound. Generally, if you're a pound off, it'll be $1 more, that sort of stuff. And for me, I put in the extra $1 here on handling costs, basically just to cover my own butt in case I did something wrong on that side of things. And $2, it's not the end of the world for something like that, because $2 on top of $4.16, that's $6.16. That's not a terrible price for shipping a book. So I have not lost many sales because of that. I personally, once I started implementing handling for my books, I did not see any change in sales at all. So it's definitely not a problem for me. But if you guys do have a niche for your eBay store where people do like free shipping and that sort of stuff, and you're the only one charging shipping, that might be an issue. For me, with antique books and even books in general, no one offers free print shipping usually, so that's what I like to do. So with all that said, on to international shipping. I always do global shipping now. It's something that I didn't do for a while because I had to basically do all the paperwork myself when I first offered it, but now eBay does that, so I offer it because eBay's doing all the headache of international shipping. If you guys have not done international shipping by yourself before, it's like a nightmare. Like, this one book would automatically go from, oh, I just sold this, I'm going to spend 3 minutes, packing it up. If you are doing that locally. If you're doing it internationally, it's like half an hour at least. It's the worst thing ever. So I offer it through eBay because it's so much nicer. So you can add additional shipping services if you'd like. I don't do that. You can do local pickup. I always offer local pickup. Handling time, for me, I do 3 days. 3 days gives me all the wiggle room I need to do everything I need. But you can go all the way up to 40 days, it looks like right now. For me, I like the 3 though. I recommend 3. But there are issues with doing 3. There's issues with doing more. There's issues with doing less, all that sort of stuff. Not getting into that in this video. Next step is, do you want to promote your listing? I almost always hit yes now. eBay's changed a bit in the last couple of years. Their new CEO seems like a money-grabbing person. So one of the things that they do is they've basically stopped showing. A lot of people have reported this. They don't get views on their things that they don't promote very much anymore. So even for me, this is the only book out there that is this kind of book. I probably would not get any views unless if I promoted it. So I'm hitting up accept promotion. So you can do campaign, you can do the ad rate. I normally just go with their suggested bid unless if it's really high. For me, 4.5%, that's roughly what it always is, so that's what I'm going with. You can do volume pricing. For me, this is the only book, so I'm not really going to offer volume pricing. But if I had like 50 of these items, 50 of this book, I would offer it. So onto this, payment, I'm not changing anything there. Returns, I like to offer accept domestic returns. I accept those, but I do not accept international returns because it's a headache. However, it doesn't really make a difference if you offer it or not, because if you are a scammer or anything like that, people can get the refund from eBay anyways. So basically offering it is no skin off your back, because if you're going to lose it and get a return anyways, you're going to get it either way. So this way you might get your book back or whatever other item you're doing. Next up is item location. As you guys can see here, here's my location. You can do a charity. I don't offer the charity thing. And then for me, I can list it for free because of my eBay store subscription. So with all that said, I can hit list it. Just going to hit that and it'll populate with everything that I need. So here's this, and I can hit the listing, all that sort of stuff. I'm actually going to blur out the ID, which is just above this, but you can see all the different stuff that you need. For me, though, once I finish listing the book, I like to write down a little sticky note of the particular book. The reason why I do that is just for my own sort of sorting and filing, because I do have several books that are exactly like other books, and for me, having the sticky note, I can put in all the information I need. So something that I do is I I write in the title of the book, so, or at least a short version of it. So Shampoo Egg is what I'm putting in, and then 1904. So that way I know the title roughly and the year. And then the next thing that I do is how much I paid for the book. I paid $1. I'm listing it for, didn't we say like 25 bucks? I'm gonna write in 25. And then the next thing is what kind of box. So the reason why I do that is, again, just to make it so it's easy when I sell it, or for anyone else who's running my business for me. If I have anyone else helping me, they know what to do. So I'm writing in indie because it's my indie box, and then I put in the weight, that's 2 pounds. And then I like to put in the date that I listed it. So it's 10/10/22 right now. And that's generally all the information that I put in on a book. Occasionally, under the title of the book, I will put in like where I bought the book, especially if it's like a new place that I'm testing out. That way I know if that one place has really good books for me to return for. But in this case, it's nowhere really special where I got it. It was just a Friends of the Library sale that I'll be returning to anyway, so I'm not doing that. But once I do that, I take the sticky off, put it on, and that's basically how I do it. So for me personally, I like doing actual Post-it brand Post-its. Those work very well. The Office Depot ones work sort of, and off-brand ones I actually recommend not using. Further off-brand ones, try to stick to ones that are like yellow but not like fluorescent yellow, because or even white, because you want ones that don't have a lot of acid in it or a lot of ink, because the ink does bleed. I've had it bleed on books before with other colored ones, and the acid ones, you can actually harm the cover. All that sort of stuff. So I hope that was able to help you guys on how to list stuff the hard way. For me, I know I specialize on books, so this is all about books, but it should be able to help you guys if you don't do books as well. So with all that said and done, guys, be sure to subscribe. You can do it there or right there. Be sure to check out one of my other videos, and I'll see you in the next one.